Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of this colour in chat as I talk about my ankylosing spondylitis journey. So if you haven't watched part 1, it is essential viewing before this part because you need to hear the process that I went through in part 1 for part 2 to make sense. So in part 1, I just realised that I called this part 1 and part 2 video, and I also broke up the story into parts. So in video 1 I discussed part 1 and 2, which is what ankylosing spondylitis is, and then my journey up to getting a diagnosis of ankylosing spondylitis. And we left off on part 3, which is called The Fall, and it is a significant impact in my story and has repercussions for the future, so it is a part on itself. Now, while I tell this story, I'm going to continue working on this page. This is from the lovely book Mythomorphia by Kerby Rosanes, and I actually have a mission this year in 2023 to complete this book, so you'll be seeing quite a bit of Mythomorphia on my channel. If you want to see what I have done in this so far, there is a flip through where I go through this complete book so far, which I will link for you in the cards and down below, so you can go watch that and see the other pages that are completed in here so far. So I'll bring you in, and the other thing that I need to stipulate before we continue, and I did this in part 1, it's very important, is that I am not a medical professional. So this is my journey with ankylosing spondylitis, my personal experience. This video does not constitute medical advice, and if anything that I bring up resonates with you or makes you think, you need to see a medical specialist. You need to see your doctor or a rheumatologist about this condition because it needs a doctor's diagnosis, needs specialist diagnosis, and it is important that you see them. I am not in a position to diagnose you. So please, if anything that this video brings up resonates with you, that you need to go talk to somebody, please go see a medical professional. That being said, if you have general questions about day-to-day life, things that I handle, that sort of thing, please feel free to comment those down below. I am more than happy to discuss everything about this condition in my journey with it. And the other thing, which I think I forgot to put in the previous video, but I just want to stipulate as well that despite everything I went through on this journey, I am okay. This is not a like, oh poor me type thing. I basically want to put this video out there so you understand about ankylosing spondylitis, how it can be impactful to a person, but also because I was not aware of ankylosing spondylitis until this diagnosis. I was not even aware of this being a condition. And because it is so commonly missed or misdiagnosed, I also want to raise awareness about ankylosing spondylitis. So if this connects with you, please let me know. I really, really do hope that I can at least sort of raise a little bit of awareness about this condition. So we will carry on with this piece. I am using Prismacolor. And I will list all the colours down below so you can see what I've used. And we will carry on with our Cerberus. So, where we left off, it is the middle of February. I have just been referred with a critical urgent referral to a rheumatologist for a suspected inflammatory arthritis. The rheumatologist needs to see me to confirm a diagnosis. It is not something my GP can do. So currently the fibromyalgia that I had previously been diagnosed with has been removed, and my GP has updated my records with query inflammatory arthritis. The urgent referral has been received, but I have been given an appointment date of the 29th of April. And it is the 14th of March when this referral is made. So there's a bit of a wait. In the meantime, I am on steroids to try and tamper any inflammation. I am on narcotics and I have a GP who believes me. I am gathering photo evidence every day of how this disease is afflicting me. But there is a major concern. I live alone. If I fall over, I am aware that I am not going to be able to easily get up. I am scared. I am very scared. Again, as I said in part 1, when I am in a situation I cannot control, I look for things I can control. I cannot control the fact I live alone. If I fall, I'm not going to be able to control that. That is an accident. But what I can do is I can make sure things are in place so that if I fall, somebody can come and get me. So I speak to my landlord about my building. My building does not have public access outside of work hours because I live in a very strange building that is primarily business. The landlord puts a key outside under a number lock code, which I am given, so that should something happen to me, I can let somebody know to be able to access the building and come in and help me. This code is passed on to my family. I start showering after all the workers have left the building at night, and I start showering leaving my door unlocked, which is very uncomfortable for me. But I'm also aware that if I slip while showering, I'm going to need somebody to come and get me, and I can't unlock the door, and there is only one door into my apartment. I start leaving this door unlocked 24/7 when I am home so that if I fall, somebody can come get me. I take my mobile phone everywhere because if I fall, this is going to be my only way to raise the alarm. And I am careful and slow. And I try my best. I am trying to survive. I am trying to still manage to cook. I am still working. I am still studying. I am still in excruciating pain. I am unable to sleep. I cannot keep a sheet on my body because even clothes are hurting me. I cannot wear shoes. I cannot draw. I cannot hold a pencil. I can barely type with this hand. I am existing, but I am barely holding on. And then it's the 17th of March. It's St. Patrick's Day. The town is pumping. It is a Wednesday night, but it is St. Patrick's Day. People are out drinking. I can hear the pubs going, but I'm exhausted. I have not slept in months, and I need a shower. And so I go through my normal nightly routine. It is 10:30 at night. I make sure my apartment door is unlocked. I take my mobile phone. I take my crutches. I cover the entire bathroom floor with spare towels to absorb any potential drips. I set my phone on the toilet seat so that if I fall getting out of the shower, it should be reachable from wherever I land in the bathroom. I put my crutches in a certain location so that I can reach them as soon as I get out of the shower. I even put my glasses in a specific location because I'm blind without my glasses and I'm aware I need my glasses to see. I have everything as carefully placed as possible because showers are terrifying and I am trying to be careful. But the inevitable happens. I shower. I finish showering. I turn off the water. I have a towel half hung over the shower so I can dry off as much as I can in the shower before I even step outside. I have a outdoor plastic chair in my shower which I am sitting on so I do not even have to move while I am wet because I'm aware that this is going to be the most likely way I am going to slip. I dry off as much as I can. I open the door. I step onto the towels I have very carefully placed and I've missed one corner. And there is just that much water on the ground. There is less than a tablespoon of water on the ground. And it's enough. And I go flying. My right ankle is the ankle I slip on. My right ankle is my good ankle. And normally this would be not enough to make me fall. But because I'm slipping on my right, I put down my left ankle. The swollen, incredibly painful, incredibly weak ankle. And because I cannot balance on this ankle, I immediately fall over. I impact onto my right shoulder. My right shoulder is my good shoulder. My left shoulder is the one that is swollen. I also bang my right hand. My right hand is the one that is swollen beyond belief. It hurts really badly. And the way that I land on the floor, I cannot access my phone and I cannot access my crutches. For all my careful planning, I happened to fall in the one way I had not figured out, and I cannot access my backup plan. So I'm lying stark naked on the floor at 10:30 at night, trying not to panic. I start wiggling around to see if I can mobilize, and this is when I realize what I have hit in the fall. Because my right shoulder and my right hand have been impacted, I cannot lean on my right side of the body, and the right side of my body is how I have been lifting. I have been putting my elbows down and using my right elbow to mobilize myself in bed, because I cannot put pressure on my left because of my shoulder, but I also cannot use my right hand. So my right elbow is my only means of mobilizing to move my upper body, except I can't do that because my right shoulder has been hit. So then I look at my feet. I know I can't use my left ankle. It's a no-one. I try to wiggle it. I try to move it. I cannot. It hurts like it has been for the last few months. So I start to move my right ankle, which is meant to be my good ankle. And it stings. But it doesn't feel like a break. It feels very much like I have just twisted it. And I can move my knee. My right knee is okay. So after calming myself down from a panic attack, I have a think. And I figure out that if I can sort of butt shuffle my way down the bathroom a bit, I can wiggle my right leg around part of my toilet to knock over my crutches. If I can knock over my crutches and then extend my leg out to sweep my crutches towards me, then even though my right side hurts, I can pick that up and use that to sweep my phone off the toilet and knock it to me onto the ground so that I can ring somebody. It was a challenge. I don't know how long that took me. I estimate that took me 15 minutes to 20 minutes to get my phone and get that down to me. Because by the time I reach my phone, it is just after 11 p.m. at night, and I know I had headed to the shower at 10:30, and I was showering as quick as possible because of how scary that was. So I had not been in the shower long. So yeah, I'm on the floor, and then my next thing is, who do I ring? Because this is a situation where in the past I possibly would have called on my parents to come round and help me, except my father had recently passed, my mother did not drive, and was not capable of getting me on my own. One of my brothers lived out of town and was quite far away, and one of my brothers had a newborn child, so I'm not ringing them. And I'm there going, well, crap, I'm going to have to ring for an ambulance. This is all I can think of. I have nobody else I can call at 11 o'clock on St. Patrick's Day to come and pick me up off the bathroom floor. So I ring 111, which is the phone, the emergency here in New Zealand, and I get a lovely lady, and I explain, I slipped getting out of the shower. I don't think anything's broken, but because I have a underlying condition that we are investigating, I'm not able to mobilize myself up off the floor, and I do kind of need some assistance just to get up off the floor because I cannot pick myself up. Because at this stage, I thought if I could just get up off the floor, I would be okay. I'd be able to mobilize. I just needed some help getting up. So the lady was lovely. She checked to make sure I wasn't bleeding anywhere, hadn't lost consciousness and everything, but I was completely coherent. I was just cold and on the bathroom floor, naked. And so she's like, okay, you're all right, you're safe. So I will send an ambulance to you. Just be aware that you are going to have to wait a while because you're not a high priority case, unfortunately. And I'm like, I do understand that. I was expecting that. It is St. Patrick's Day after all. They are dealing with a lot. And again, our ambulance staff is also pushed beyond belief. The whole medical system is taxed beyond belief. Medical does not get enough respect. And so I end up lying on the bathroom floor. And it is an hour before they can come and get me. And at this time, I am lying there and I'm just thinking for an hour. Thoughts are swirling through my head. It's the most terrifying part of all of this is lying on the floor, unable to get up with only the thoughts in your head. But nevertheless, at midnight, the ambulance staff finally get to me. Now, my preparations had been key here because I had managed to let 111 know, the dispatcher know, exactly the code to my building, how to get into my building, how to find my apartment in the building because it was not marked, and gave basically general advice on how to find me. I also said I had purposely showered with my door unlocked so that they could come straight in, and that when they got to my floor to start making noise, because it was at night, the building was empty, and I'd be able to hear them, and I would start banging my crutch against the wall so that they could hear me. So they were able to find me very quickly in the building despite the difficulties of my building. And it was two lovely, lovely ladies who were very kind about rescuing my naked body off the floor. And luckily, the lead ambulance officer actually had a daughter with inflammatory arthritis. So she fully understood what was going on when I explained, why I was having difficulties mobilizing. She's like, I fully get this. So the first thing they did was they helped me put on a sweatshirt and pants because I was freezing and needed something. Because again, I'm naked and these are strangers in my apartment. But yeah, so they help me get dressed and then they start a slow process of getting me up. So the first thing they do is they get me to just sit up on the floor. And then they get a chair and they sit me up in the chair and then they get me standing. This process takes an hour because at this point I have been lying in an awkward position on the floor for an hour and my whole body is locked up because it is so swollen. One of the things I need to do to keep my body from being in so much pain is moving, even though moving hurts. So I was trying to wiggle, but at this point I'm so locked up that it is excruciating. And as they are doing each step in this process, I am screaming bloody murder because I am in so much pain. But eventually they get me to sitting on a chair. The other thing they do as well is they ask about my medication and they administer my own medication to me because it is stronger than anything the ambulance has. Which I found funny at the time, so that was great. But yeah, they get me sitting up in the chair and then they help me to stand up. And as soon as I stand up, I'm aware that my left ankle's going to be shite. I can't mobilize on my left ankle. And they're like, that's okay. We need to check your right ankle. I'm like, okay. So I stand up and I start to put pressure on the right ankle. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yep. No, there's probably a little bit of a twist there. It's a little tender. And they're like, okay, cool. You probably sprained it or something. That's understandable. We should probably get it checked out. But a sprain's not that worrying. Can you put pressure on your left, please? And so I do. And the pain that shoots through my left foot. Oh, yeah. There was a lot of bad words that were said. And they immediately sit me back down. They're like, is that the normal pain you've been experiencing? And I'm like, no, that's a different pain. And they're like, okay, you might have done something to that ankle as well. You may have broken it. You may have sprained it. But we should probably get you looked at. And I'm like, I don't really want to go to ED for a sprained ankle on St. Patrick's Day, you know. I have a emergency doctor's just around the corner with x-rays. I'm like, I can just pop there tomorrow, you know. I know the hospital's overwhelmed. I don't want to be a bother to you guys because I'll just be sitting up there in ED taking a bed until the morning, until the x-ray people come on. And the lady, bless her heart, looks at me and goes, we can't leave you here. You can't mobilize to the toilet. You can't walk. You can't move. Like, you need to go into hospital. You should have been in hospital months ago. You are coping with too much on your own, and this pain needs looking at. She's like, we can take you in because you can't mobilize. We can't leave you if you can't go to the bathroom, and that is enough for us to take you in and maybe get you seen by somebody. And so my head just swells with the idea that maybe I can get to see my specialist early. Maybe we can look at this early. I am at breaking point with this pain. And so as much as I don't want to be, you know, the burden on the hospital system, I do concede I cannot mobilize to the bathroom. I cannot mobilize to my own bed. I can't put pressure on my right hand. I can't use my left. I need to be looked after. So I concede. And at 1:30 in the morning at this point, they load me into the ambulance. Now, again, in my preparation, I've also prepped a go bag. And this go bag has the colouring book that I have been trying to work in, failing, but trying to work in a little bit, because the steroids had been helping a little bit, so I've been able to colour a little bit at this stage. It has my medication. It does not have a toothbrush. It's the one thing I forgot to put in there, but it has my medication. It has, it basically has like my phone charger. It had everything in there should I fall, to know that they could just pick up that bag and be like, everything I need's in that bag, except for a toothbrush. So yeah, they take me out to the hospital, and again, we arrived just before 2, and the x-ray people are not on until 7 o'clock in the morning, so I can't get an x-ray until first thing in the morning, because they only come in for dire emergencies overnight, but most x-rays can wait till the next morning. So I'm put into a separate wing in the emergency room with a few people who are all just waiting for x-rays and trying to sleep unsuccessfully in a lot of pain. The morning rolls around and they send me through for my x-ray. The only x-ray that is done is on my left ankle, as that is the one that is suspected to be broken. With the swelling of my condition, they decide that the other joints are probably all related to my condition, potentially. But again, my condition had not been diagnosed, so it was all query inflammatory arthritis. But so I go for the x-ray, and then I make way back in ED waiting for the x-ray results. I message my family and let them know what's going on. So my mum comes up and hangs out with me in the hospital for a while, and we're just trying to chat and laugh and trying to make the most of the situation as best we can. The x-rays come back at about 11 o'clock and show that there is no break. It is definitely swollen, it's definitely inflamed, but it is not broken. But now the hospital has a problem, because they cannot discharge me if I cannot mobilize. So they request for a specialised team to come in and assist me for how much I can mobilise to see if I can be discharged from ED. The team comes in, takes one look at me and goes, nope, and issues a specific notice, and I believe it's called an ARC, which is the Assessment and Recovery Care Team, I think was the term. It's a little foggy at the stages on some pretty heavy narcotics. But basically, by impacting this specific team, it states that a bunch of people have to sign me off before I'm allowed to be discharged. I have to be signed off by a physio. I have to be signed off by a social worker. I have to be signed off by a care nurse. And I have to be signed off by a psychiatrist because they have recognised that I am struggling in the community and I may need medical assistant. Which Edie is not very happy about because I'm sitting there taking a bed. But for me, it's fantastic because suddenly all these people come in and I'm having to repeat about everything that's going on. I have an amazing chat with the psychologist who, you know, because I'm studying psychology, we have a great chat about a lot of stuff. And she knows that I'm trying to do my best and I've got a lot of mental health techniques that I have learnt from my years within the mental health from my own experiences that I have managed to survive this condition for so long. And that is the thing that keeps on coming up from the community care worker, from the social worker, from the physio is, how have you been surviving in pain for so long? You should have had more help. And I'm like, what can I do? I'm waiting on a diagnosis. Turns out that I could have accessed a lot of these services without a diagnosis. Did not know how to find that information. To this day, still do not know how to find that information. Because all of these things generally come from a referral from the specialist. And I needed the specialist to get the referral, and I was waiting on the specialist appointment. So, yeah. Still to this day. But the thing is, I'm up there and none of these teams want to sign me off. The psychologist is happy to say that mentally I am strong enough, but physically even she can tell that I cannot go home. This physio are like, she cannot mobilize at home. We need to set her up with mobility gear. We need to retrain her ankle. She's got obvious injuries. We're not sending you home. The community care worker's like, we're not sending you home without a plan in place. It's like the social worker's like, we're not sending you home without community support. Like, everybody put their foot down. And then Edie's like, well, where do we send her? Because she has a sprained ankle. And we can't admit her for a sprained ankle. So then it became a question of, where the heck do I go? So they talked about putting me into the rehab ward. But the thing is, I'm too mobile for the rehab ward. I haven't been in an accident. I don't have complete immobility. I just need some physio. So I'm too mobile for the rehab ward, but I'm too immobile for home. They talk to older people health, where they put the elderly patients, because again, I'm dealing with an arthritic condition. They're used to dealing with patients with arthritis and bone conditions, but I'm too young for them. It's just like bouncing around all these different departments. I don't fit under the surgical team because I haven't had surgery. I can't go into medical because I'm there for an accident. The accident is not significant enough to go under the accident. So I'm just bouncing around all these different departments who are like, well, she doesn't fit under our criteria. Eventually, under all of this, they managed to get hold of the rheumatologist that I had the appointment to see on the 29th of April. And the rheumatologist is like, well, I can't see you today, but yes, admit her under me and I will see you tomorrow. Admit her under rheumatology. So at about 4 o'clock on the 18th of March, I am admitted into hospital for a sprained ankle. And so begins my 5-week hospital stay for a sprained ankle. Oh, goodness. So, yeah, my first night in hospital, I'm dealing with hospital food. It's atrocious. But I am in a private room, which is lovely. We also, because I'm there with my mum on the way up with me bumps into a childhood friend who now works in the hospital, specifically as a coordinator for people who have specialised needs. So she comes in and checks in with me, sees what I'm going through and how much pain I'm in. So she arranges, for example, for me to get one of the really good beds that I could mobilise with a remote instead of having to manually mobilise, and had a mattress that would blow up and blow down because obviously I'm immobile and not really able to move that much. So it stops bed sores and helps with comfort, basically, for somebody who's in chronic pain. So good. Except for the fact that it like broke down 4 times. But yeah, so I'm comfortable. The food's horrible, but I'm comfortable. I'm in my own little room. I've got a really nice little view. Couple of people come see me, you know, I'm settling in, and basically I'm just waiting until the next day to finally meet my rheumatologist. And so yeah, on the 19th of March, I get to see my rheumatologist. I have skipped the wait by 5 weeks, which is one of the best parts of this whole experience. Oh, I'm out of frame. So sorry. So he comes in with 2 medical students under him who he's training. So introduces himself and goes, you know, do you mind if we have the students? I'm like, no, they're going to learn. It's fine. So he takes a look at me. He looks over my joints. He asks a couple of questions. He reviews my referral. This whole process takes less than 2 minutes. And he turns to the students and says, this is classic ankylosing spondylitis. Tell me why. 2 minutes is all it took to get my diagnosis. I waited how many months for a 2-minute assessment? I mean, he spends longer with me discussing the plan and working out what we're going to do and stuff like that. But 2 minutes. But I have my diagnosis, ankylosing spondylitis. And I have Google, so I start looking at stuff. You shouldn't really do that. But I was bored and in hospital. What else was I going to do? But basically, he ups my steroid dose significantly higher so that we can get the inflammation under control. The goal is to get the inflammation under control so that I can get out of hospital, get some physio, get moving, and then he will follow up with me in the clinic to start the ankylosing spondylitis treatment plan. And in the meantime, they'll arrange a little bit of extra help to help me until I can get on the appropriate treatment plan. So I'm like, sweet, that's what we need. So physio come in that afternoon and start setting me up with a portable walking frame. And they realise that I'm probably going to need a gutter frame because I can't pressurise on my hand, I can't pressurise on my shoulder, but I can sort of pressurise on my forearms. So they're like, okay, we'll come back tomorrow and we'll bring the gutter frame and you can practice on the gutter frame, and then we should be able to tick you off to go home. And physio are currently the only one that are withholding sending me home. The rest of them had started setting up, for example, a cleaner to come around and help me. I'd started getting set up with some services. I was going to get, for example, a panic alarm so that if I slipped and fall again, I could have a button to press and they would be able to come up and get me. So all these things were being set up in place around me to make home life more safe for me. And all it was now just waiting on physio to say, yep, she can mobilise to the bathroom. That is all I needed to do. I needed to be able to mobilise, I think it was like 20 metres at most, or 10 metres. It was a very small amount that I had to show that I could mobilise, and then I was allowed to go home. So it's now, it was Wednesday night, I fell, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, so they're like, okay, we're going to have to set you up with a gutter frame. But it was Friday. And physio don't work over the weekend. So they set me up with the normal walking frame. They're like, you can't really mobilise on this too much, but try to take a couple of steps and, you know, do what you need to do. Friday morning. Yeah, so that was Friday morning, sorry. This is where it gets very confusing again. I was on a lot of narcotics at this stage, so brain is very fuzzy. So yeah, Friday morning, they're like, we're going to need to get a gutter frame. We'll come back this afternoon. The reason for this was because it was Friday, they were trying to kick us out before the weekend because they was going to go home Friday night. So they're scheduled to come back at 3 o'clock. And they're literally coming in the door with the gutter frame when the nurse comes in and goes, oh no, sorry, you cannot actually work with her. She's not allowed to move. And I'm like, hang on, wait, what? And they turn around and they're like, hang on, no, she's just got to prove that she can mobilise on a scatter frame and then we're sending you home. And the nurse was like, no, we've just had a call from radiology and the senior clinician has taken a look at her x-ray and they actually think there's a break in her foot. She needs an MRI. And so physio's like, nope, we're out. They can't touch me because I now have a potentially broken foot. And so I now need an MRI. But the problem is, it is the weekend. And again, the MRI team does not work on the weekend unless it is an absolute emergency. So this is not classified as an emergency. So I have to wait until Monday. And in the meantime, I am not allowed to mobilize on my foot. So all my walking aids that have been brought in are taken away. And I am told that I am not allowed to leave the bed. I have to use a bedpan. It is horrendous and horrible. And never, ever, ever again do I want to use a bedpan. The weekend staff are running on absolute bare minimum because, again, the hospital staff is overwhelmed. They've just been through a global pandemic. The staffing levels are minimal. Everyone is burned out. So I'm trying to be understanding, but also at one point I had to lie on a full bedpan for 45 minutes before a nurse could come and take it away from me. So yeah, it was horrendous and disgusting and horrible, and I don't like bedpans. And I never want to go back to having to use one. So gross. But yes, after the weekend of horribleness, Monday rolls around and I'm like, yay, x-ray, MRI, let's get out of here. So we're waiting, and one of the things is, I had talked to the nurses and I had asked them for when I am going for my x-ray to, if they can, right before I go, or it's like within the hour of going, if they could issue me the narcotics so that they would be hitting as I went for the MRI, because I knew the MRI would result in me needing to keep still, and being still caused a lot of pain. So I was like, can we do everything possible to minimize that pain? So they're like, yeah, of course. We'll try. We don't have a set appointment time, which I understood. I was like, yeah, okay. So we're waiting Monday. And because of emergencies, I can't get in for a MRI. So they're like, sorry, we have to push this out till Tuesday. Okay. We wait all day Tuesday. And then finally, at 4 o'clock at Tuesday, a healthcare assistant turns up and is like, I'm here to take you down for your x-ray, your MRI. I'm like, I was meant to get some pain meds before I go. And he's like, yeah, sorry, we've kind of got to take you now. It's the only time we have. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting 2 more days. So I have to go down with no pain meds. The MRI process takes 45 minutes. And at this end point, I'm in so much pain that literally they're doing it in 30-second increments. They're like, still, and then giving me 10 seconds to shake. Still, 10 seconds to shake, because I am in so much agonizing pain. I am crying like there is no tomorrow. And then after the MRI, they can't even get me straight up to the wards because I need a healthcare assistant to roll my bed back up to the wards. And they're also running like headless chickens all over the hospital because, once again, overstretched capacity. So I was due for my pain meds when I went for the MRI. The MRI process took an hour by the time we finished everything. And then I have to wait for an hour in excruciating pain in my hospital bed in the corridor of the MRI part of the hospital until basically a hospital administrator discovered me because they were doing some safety checks with some fancy bigwig, and I was sitting there crying, or lying there crying in the hallway in agonizing pain. Very quickly after she made a call did I get moved back to the ward. But yeah, a lot of pain meds that night because, that was painful. It was so painful. That was probably one of the, there's a lot of bad experiences. There's a lot of good stuff in there too. But yeah, now we're just waiting on the MRI results, and we're told it will be possibly Wednesday afternoon or Thursday. So the results don't come back until late Thursday afternoon, and one of the doctors comes and sees me and is like, okay, so we can see clearly it's not broken, but we can see the damage in your foot due to your ankylosing spondylitis. There's clearly some damage in there, and we can see why you're in so much pain on it. But the good news is it's not a break. So physio is allowed to come back. At this point, however, I had been immobile for almost a week. So now physio has an even greater challenge because they now have to train me back in walking. So they come up, they bring the gutter frame, and we begin trying to just even get me a couple of steps. And I'm like, I just want to mobilize to the bathroom. I want to use a proper toilet and I want a shower. That's all I want. Because I had not been able to shower at that point either, because I hadn't been able to move. So it had all been bed washers and bed pans, and I just wanted a shower so badly. So physio came on Thursday. The MRI results came too late Thursday for physio, so they came Friday morning to see how I was going, and they were like, yeah, we're not discharging you this weekend, sorry, you're going to be up here. I'm like, great. Because the thing is, it's Easter weekend. It's, actually, it can't have been Friday there. So the results must have come back Wednesday night for the physio to come Thursday for Friday. Again, like I said, some of the dates get busy, but I do know it's Easter weekend because they see me just before Easter, and the hospital is trying to send out as many people as possible before Easter weekend to free up beds. And I am not able to be one of them. So I am still in hospital for my sprained ankle over Easter weekend. Yeah, so it's a long weekend, which means physio are not back until Wednesday the following week. So I have a lot of time. And in the meantime, the hospital gets incredibly full up. I get moved from my private room into a shared ward because, again, I'm literally up there for a sprained ankle and they have patients that need a private room more, so understandable. But they realize very quickly that I'm good with the elderly ladies, so they put me in with all the old ladies, which I loved because we would go for like little walks with our walkers. But it also meant that, you know, like I would pick up if one of the ladies tried to get out of bed too quickly and got a bit dizzy and ping the emergency alarm for them. So it was like they had an extra set of eyes, which on a bare bones staffed weekend was absolutely essential. But yeah, there's some good times up there. The little old ladies were really sweet. I had good times with them in the wards. They slept a lot, which I loved because it was very quiet. And yeah, basically the weeks became physio coming up and trying to help me move, and then trying to help me sort out my pain. And I had lots of, like, the psychologist came back and visited me a few times, and we had some good chats, just checking in and making sure, because again, history of mental health, so they had a note and had the psychologist come and see me. I got social workers coming and visiting me. I had the pain clinic come and visiting me to see how I was managing with pain, and this process went on and on and on. And basically the goal was I had to be able to mobilize around the ward unaided on that walking frame in order to go home, which was more steps than I had in my home, by the way. But, you know, whatever. I was just determined to get out of there. It took me weeks. It took me weeks to get to that point. And then when I finally could mobilize to that point, while physio was prepared to sign me off, the pain team was not prepared to sign me off because I was still in so much chronic pain in every survey they answered. But basically we reached a point where the roommate at the time in the shared ward had like so much noise because we had swapped out the older ladies and now a younger one had come in. She was noisy as heck, that I had not slept in 2 days. And I got the psychologist who come around visiting, and I said to her, I am starting to break, and it is because of this place. It is not because of anything else. I need my own space. I need peace and quiet. I don't care that I'm in pain. I've been in pain for 2.5 months. I am doing a lot better than I was, but I need sleep and I need my own space and I need to be discharged. And so she basically put it to the pain team and said, we need to discharge you. The pain's not going away. She's just dealing with it. And so on the 6th of April, nope, that was the end of Easter weekend. On April the 13th, I managed to get myself discharged. 5 weeks. 5 weeks for a sprained ankle. But the thing is, I get sent home and I now have a lot more help around me. I have a cleaner who will come in and help me just frickin' clean up the apartment. I have the pendant alarm. I have a physio team. I have a nurse who's coming in to make sure that I'm doing okay once, and mostly I have a diagnosis and I have a follow-up appointment with my rheumatologist specialist and I have a walking frame. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So I don't see the rheumatologist until the 17th of May after the hospital visits, and we begin starting the treatment process. So the process to treating ankylosing spondylitis is not steroids. You cannot be on steroids long term, which I had been at that point just to survive. So I move off the steroids and onto a couple of medications. We try a few different things, but eventually we end up on a biologic, which is an injection I take. Now the official name is adalimumab. I'm probably mispronouncing it. I go by the brand name Humira. I need approval from our health board to have this medication, as the injections are very expensive. But again, due to the lovely COVID, this process that would normally take a couple of days is delayed. We do the application on the 26th of October. This is how long it takes to get to this point. It takes until December the 1st for the application to be approved for the injection. And during this time, from the hospital discharge on the 6th of April to the 1st of December, I'm still trying to survive. I'm still working and studying and in so much pain, but at least we're starting to get on different meds. So the first lot of meds I try, there's no effect. I go back on steroids for a while. We try another med. It doesn't work. I go back on steroids for a while. We try another med. And once we had exhausted the possibilities, then we could put in the application for the injection, which is eventually approved. But again, everything is a waiting process. And at this point, I've just learned to be frickin' patient, because what else can you do? But eventually, the injection approval happens. And then we skip ahead to March 2022. Because the thing is, after I get approval to be on the injection, we still need to monitor it. I need to be on the injection for 3 months before we can assess if it's working properly. And ideally 6 months before we can increase or adjust the dosage, because again, this is a protocol with how expensive the medication is. So I start it on December 1st, and then in March, the health authority decides to swap out everyone on this brand name medication for a generic non-biologic version. This version is said to be just as effective, but it is not made in the same manner. It is, the only way I can describe it is like the biologic is like an apple versus the other brand, which is like candied apple fruit. Like, it's both apple, but one is clearly a natural product and one is a chemically made product. Like, that's the difference. So everybody is switched from the natural to, well, it's not natural, it's still a chemical, but it was switched from the Humira to the other brand one. And again, we have to be on this one for 6 months, And if it's not working, we're told we can switch back to Humira, but we have to trial this one for 6 months because it is significantly cheaper. And I'm talking from $3,000 an injection to $300 for a 3-month course. So huge impact, especially when we take 6 injections a month. So from 18,000 to 300, like massive difference. So the government wants as many of us as possible to switch if we can. I get it, I understand, but it sucks because while the injection had been working, it had not been fully working, and I was trying to get approval to go from fortnightly injections to 10-day injections, and that process had to be put on hold while this injection was stopped and switched around. Yeah. So the injection that I take, Humira, is a TNF inhibitor. That's a tumor necrotizing factor inhibitor. And what that does is it goes into my immune system and basically says to it, hey, settle the hell down. You don't need to be doing this. But because it's doing that, the immune system does nothing. It does settle down, but it also won't attack the bad ones. It won't attack the good ones. It won't attack the bad ones, which means I am technically immune compromised now. It's during this time, while I am trying these switches and then switching back, I lose a lot of hope. Because, it had been years at this point, and I begin to wonder if the pain will ever go away. And this is when I start significantly working in colouring books, because I can't draw yet. I'm still trying. I still can't hold a pencil that well. So I start colouring like crazy. Between 2021 and 2022 is when I start using colouring as a means of rebuilding up the strength in my hands. And this is where my colouring journey really began. In those long, lonely nights when I wondered if I would ever be normal again, I would instead pull out a colouring book and put down some colours and create a happy little world for myself where everything was okay. And I'm so grateful to colouring for having that escape for me, for helping me get through, because it did get very dark some nights. But with my history that I had been through with mental health, I had so much resilience built up. And that's the thing, I said to my GP, I spent 15 years sorting out my brain and now my body's falling apart. But as she said, you spent 15 years focusing on your brain, so now it's time to focus on your body. But yeah, as of the 20th of January 2023, I have been approved and have begun taking injections on the 10-day cycle. And I am taking the more expensive biologic. And so far, it seems to be working very well. During all of this time, I was still studying. And I still managed to complete my bachelor in psychology. I will be graduating from that this year. And that is also one of the reasons I was able to survive, because had I been going to a job every day where I had to mobilize to a workplace, things would have been much different, because I wouldn't have been able to mobilize. Because I was studying from home and in a degree where you got to study when you chose to, while I had set assignments, I did not have set classes. I had textbooks and readings and online videos, and those, like, the classes were recorded, but the idea was you could work at your own pace. It meant that on the really bad days, I did nothing, and there was weeks I did nothing, and then I would get up and have a semi-good day, and being a speed reader, I could do 2 to 3 weeks worth of classes in a day. And that is how I managed to survive on my own for so long, waiting. So that was a blessing in itself, that I had also made the decision to return back to school. So yeah, basically now we're up to part 4, which is now and future. So now the result of everything that has gone on is that I now require a walking frame to mobilize. I am on consistent pain meds. I quite often will wear compression gloves, especially while live streaming, while I colour. I only can work 2 hours a day before I'm done. I'm in consistent pain. Some days are better than others. Some days are definitely worse. But I don't want to leave this video on a bad note, because the thing is, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm actually really fucking good. I'm actually really good, considering. So definitely during 2022, I know that there was a point where I just kind of was treading water. And it actually took me going on holiday for the first time and seeing a friend to realize just how burnt out I was. So for now, the goals are focusing on myself in terms of self-care, stopping myself from burning out so much, which will help now not studying full-time. A lot more just self-care and recovery time. I'm also making a point this year of actually standing up and going, no, we need to do this. So that is how I got my injection approval put through, because I basically went, no, we've been on this for long enough. I need a medication increase. And I've got now a referral for the eye specialist because my eyes need investigating. Again, uveitis related condition. And the next big task is getting a referral to orthopedics. Orthopedics have not wanted to see me while the inflammatory disease was an issue. But now it's been a couple of years and I need to get that ankle looked at because there is permanent damage in my left ankle, which is why I have to use a walking frame to mobilize. As COVID has reduced its response and now with no schoolwork, obviously there's a lot less stress in my life, and my goal is to try and keep that to a minimum, because the more stressed out I am, the more I flare up and the worse it is for me physically. And so one of the things I decided this year was I wanted to really focus on my colouring, and that is why I'm focusing on Twitch and live streaming consistently. At this stage, I have committed to live streaming on Tuesdays, New Zealand, 10 a.m. New Zealand Tuesdays. I stream on Twitch, and I made the decision to do YouTube as well, because the other thing is during 2020, I realised how lonely and disconnected I could be at times, especially with this pain condition. You know, I can't leave the house some days. I can't just pop out and see friends because I can't mobilize. So having a community to connect with and about a topic that I am loving, which is colouring, is just really special. So by watching this video, by commenting or interacting with me, you're actually helping me achieve a very important goal this year, which is just connection, making people smile with my colouring and sharing the joy that colouring has brought to my life. And if you take anything away from this video, I hope it is how wonderful life is, even with everything going on. Because even when you're going through the darkest of times, there is something to help you find some joy. And if you're in one of those dark times, I hope this video can help you find that joy. Thank you so much for listening to this massive long story. Again, if this video has raised any topics for you regarding your own personal health, please do go see a medical professional. I am not a medical professional. This is my own personal experience. You do need to speak to a specialist. I can recommend taking photos of your joints that are swelling. Another thing that you can do is you can keep a pain diary where you track your pain levels every day and how long it took for said pain to to alleviate itself in the morning. If you suspect it is ankylosing spondylitis or something in the inflammatory arthritis family, a genetic test for your HLA-B27 gene marker, which will have to be ordered by a doctor or a specialist depending on your country's requirements for blood tests, is a very good indicator. And just keep pushing through. Always keep pushing through. If the doctor does not give you the answers you seek, find another doctor. Always get a second opinion if you need to. You are entitled to go and talk to other doctors to seek answers if you are not finding the answers that you need. But most of all, in everything you do in life, be kind and spread joy. Because at the end of the day, all we can do is spread a little bit of ourselves around. And that little bit of ourselves is joy. And that's why it's my middle name. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this colour and chat. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.